Good evening, or depending on your time zone, good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to the Loyola Academic Experience webinar. On behalf of myself and my friends and colleagues on the panel, we are pleased that you can join us today. I'll be your host for the session. My name is Dr. David Slavsky, and I'm a faculty member in the Department of Physics. I'm also the Vice Provost and Director of the Office of Institutional Effectiveness, which means I'm Loyola's numbers guy. I'm beginning my 39th year of service at Loyola, and I'm preparing for the 77th semester opening in my career here. And I can assure you this semester opening is unlike any we've had before. In addition to being a Loyola faculty member, I'm also a Loyola parent. My daughter is a senior, majoring in chemistry and minoring in classics. We're especially honored to have so many of you here tonight. It's the end of a momentous week for us, and that week has been following 5 months that I don't think any of us ever thought we would live through. It's almost trite to say that we're living in unprecedented times. And it's easy to say that nothing about this fall will be like the falls of past. Certainly a lot will be different, and we're going to talk tonight about what some of those differences are and how we've been preparing for 5 months to meet those differences. But it would be untrue to say that nothing will be the same. What will be the same, what is always the same, is the commitment of the faculty and the staff of Loyola to provide every one of our 17,000 students with the best possible academic and living experience that we can, no matter what the external circumstances might be. In the past 5 months, I've witnessed how faculty have transformed their courses and their teaching style to meet the needs of our students. And I've seen how our staff all across the university have shown diligence and creativity in developing new programs and new strategies for working with our students, even though they will not be physically present with us this fall. Now, it is truly my pleasure and honor to introduce to you our moderator for the evening, one of the very first people I met at Loyola nearly 4 decades ago, and someone who's been a close friend of mine ever since. I'd like to introduce you to Dean Joyce Knight, the Associate Dean for Student Academic Affairs and Advising in the College of Arts and Sciences. Joyce?
Thank you most kindly, David, for that nice introduction. I'm a true rambler. I'm the wife of an alum. I'm the mom of an alum. I'm even the mother-in-law of an alum. And I've been here for 40 years at Loyola University, and it's been a great ride, and I'm happy to be a rambler. So before we get started, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. First, this event is being recorded and will be posted to the Return to Campus website this week. Today, we will hear from faculty, from students, and other experts in the technology and student support areas. Please join me in welcoming the following panelists we have today. David Slavsky, the Vice Provost from the Office of Institutional Effectiveness. Betsy Burns, Director of Learning and Student Success. John Gernak, Director of Online Learning. Father Scott Hendrickson, the Associate Provost for Global and Community Engagement. Paul Volker, Director of the Loyola Information Commons and the University Libraries. Jennifer Parks, Professor of Philosophy and Director of the Undergraduate Bioethics minor in the College of Arts and Sciences. Stacy Nair-Baran, Senior Ignatian Lecturer from the Quinlan School of Business, Department of Marketing. And last and not least, Ty Judd, student in the Quinlan School of Business, majoring in international business. We expect that our webinar will conclude around 7:30. Our main topics for today will be students' perspectives, faculty development, faculty perspectives, student success and resources, and Ignatian pedagogy. After each speaker discusses a topic, there will be a question and answer period. These questions have been gleaned from those that you sent in previously and those that you are sending us tonight. Questions will be directed to one of our experts on the panel. In order to be good stewards of our time tonight, we will focus on addressing questions related to COVID-19 during the discussion. We will be answering many of the questions that you sent earlier on, along with those that you are posing today. Any questions not answered today will be covered in the Return to Campus website. So please make sure that you visit the site frequently as it's updated on a regular basis. I'm turning the microphone back over to David.
Thank you, Joyce. What I'd like to introduce now our student panelist, Ty Judd, who's an international business major in the Quinlan School of Business. Ty, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your experiences here at Loyola?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ty Judd. I do not have nearly half as impressive as an introduction as Vice Provost David Slavsky and Associate Dean Joyce Knight, but I am an international business major with a focus of business data analytics in the Quinlan School of Business. I am in my 4th year of undergraduate studies here at Loyola, and I am happy to share some of my experiences as a current Loyola student.
If you're in data analytics, I should hire you for the Office of Institutional Effectiveness. What I'd like to prevail upon you, Ty. I'm one of the people that's been monitoring the COVID support mailbox over the summer, and I've received many, many dozens of questions from parents and students asking about online learning. And frankly, there are some concerns about online learning and whether it can be as effective as face-to-face learning and whether it can provide the community and the opportunities of face-to-face learning. So I know that you've experienced both traditional face-to-face learning here at Loyola and online learning. And so I'd kind of like to ask you the question of the night: can can online learning work for you as well as face-to-face learning?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think to answer your question directly first, yeah, I think it can. As we all know, we are in unprecedented times and the world is in an uncertain place right now. And I think Loyola has done an excellent job of pivoting and adapting to the online platform so that not only the quality of education stayed the same, but also the resources surrounding that education is one of the largest aspects that makes Loyola such a great university and remains available to the students. So for example, what do I mean by that? Academic advising has gone online with Zoom meetings so that students can meet with their academic advisors virtually. I personally checked in with my advisor last spring through Zoom and it was fast and easy. The Loyola Online Library, with students access to JSTOR, which is an online database with hundreds of thousands of academic journals and research, is another invaluable tool that was very useful for me last semester in my international economics and policies class when we were writing research papers. The Writing Center is also online and available by appointment for anyone that needs help with their papers. The Wellness Center, another super important part of us right now, shares information on the virus relative to campus and is a great resource not only if students are feeling physically ill, but also provides mental health support and much more. I also believe that the Wellness Center has 2 clinics on campus to test for the virus and to keep the campus safer. Even the Tutoring Center has transitioned to a virtual experience. Students can drop into tutoring sessions on the subject that they prefer or even make an appointment for a specific question. Something that I use personally is the Handshake website, an online platform to search for jobs and internships specifically tailored to Loyola students, and that's jobs on campus and off campus. The career centers have a plethora of resources that have moved online as well. For example, I know specifically this summer, the Quinlan Business Career Centers had multiple virtual events from career coaching to remote interviewing to Q&A sessions with possible future employers from top companies. I personally have found the resume and cover letter coaching to be very helpful, and also currently use their Loyola Mentorship Program, a program that connects me with Loyola alumni that have graduated with the same major as I and work in industries that I'm very interested in. And so as a current student, personally, the most important resource to me has been my professors and their ability to work with the students through these unprecedented times. Professors are very responsive to emails, open to Zoom meetings, and some even have given me their personal phone numbers to reach out to them when preparing for tests or asking for specifics last semester. Lots of professors have coordinated with each of their classes to arrange a learning environment that best suits each class and their students. If there are any students with unique situations, we have some international students, the professors always ask that those students reach out so they could find a solution for them and not be left behind. With the fall semester upon us, professors continue to be my #1 resource, with the majority of my new professors already reaching out to me and my peers and to make introductions, outline the courses, and once again, make necessary accommodations so that we're all prepared. Even more importantly is the relationships that I'm able to build with my professors, especially the professors that are teaching the subjects and industries that I would like to be employed in one day. Networking with those professors, having those references and starting those interactions with potential employers before I graduate, I feel, are very important to keys to success that Loyola is able to facilitate. So with all that being said, if you are an incoming student, I hope you take advantage of some of the resources that I just talked about. To everyone else, I hope you stay resilient and go Ramblers.
Thank you, Ty, for those great answers. We can't let you off that easy, though. I've got a few more questions for you. So one of the questions I have is, are you able to do group projects and group work? How does that work in an online setting?
So we are able to do group work, group projects. I'm sure all the young students are able to utilize the technology that best suits them, whether that be Zoom meetings, or I personally use FaceTime, group chats, or maybe the most important thing to know to how to use is a shared Google Doc, so that all your group members are able to work on one document and everyone sees the same thing and everyone can make edits to the same document. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you, Ty. One more question for you. So as you know, at Loyola, we value community. In fact, the first year program usually focuses on building that community. And so in that case, how do you develop the sense of community, or especially build community if this is your first semester on campus with your peers and other students in your courses?
Right, so my professors for my classes this fall, for example, have sent me rosters of students that are in the class and have asked that students take a look to see if they see anyone they know that they'd like to be in a group with, or part of a simulation with. So it's great if you recognize a name or two to be able to link up with them and work together at each other's level of comfort. Otherwise, for students that maybe this is their first semester, like you said, or you don't recognize everyone's name, I would suggest to be ambitious, be a leader. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself and be that social conduit and make up for that lost in-person interaction that we now have to work through.
Thank you again, Ty. Appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. John Gurnak, the Director of Online Learning, who will discuss faculty development.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Gurnak. I'm the Director of Loyola's Office of Online Learning. The Office of Online Learning works with Loyola's academic units to both plan and develop the university's fully online programs. We also provide instructional design assistance to faculty and prepare them on how to both design and deliver online courses effectively. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to take part in today's webinar. So I would like to begin by noting that online education is not new to Loyola. I think this is really important to mention specifically to this audience. Loyola has been offering quality online courses and programs for several decades. We currently have over 50 completely online certificate and degree programs at the university. So we know how to design and deliver quality online education. I also want to mention that this year, our online bachelor's programs are ranked in the top 10 nationally by US News and World Report. So back in March, we found ourselves having to quickly pivot to remote learning. And at that time, many of our faculty had never taught an online course, and many of our students had never taken one. We had to rapidly move thousands of courses online in a short period of time. So obviously not an ideal situation, but the escalating public health situation really left us with few choices. And the overall health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff is always our #1 priority. But since March, we have worked tirelessly to better prepare our faculty through numerous professional development workshops that focus on best practices for online course design, as well as on engagement strategies to really help instructors reimagine their courses for the possibility of a completely online fall semester. We have prepared hundreds of faculty, actually probably well over 1,000, to design and deliver effective online courses. We knew that in the event that we needed to stay online for fall 2020, that our courses needed to be the equivalent or even better than the face-to-face courses that are really the hallmark of a Loyola education. So I am confident that our faculty now have the knowledge, the tools, and the support they need to offer quality online courses. Courses that reflect online learning's best practices and promote really robust student engagement. We approach our online course development process very deliberately to ensure that student learning outcomes are met, that sufficient student engagement occurs, and that students know how to find and where to get any assistance that they need. So our goal is always to create a learning environment where our students can be successful, one that is rooted in our Jesuit values and our core belief in the effectiveness of Ignatian pedagogy. This is what makes Loyola special. Well, this and our world-class faculty, of course, who are the very same instructors that teach our students in both online and face-to-face courses. So I think that the best way for you to fully understand our online course design process is to hear from a few faculty who are successful in both face-to-face and online delivery formats. This will help you understand more about an instructor's approach to online course design and how it differs from preparing to teach the same course in a face-to-face classroom. So let me introduce Dr. Jennifer Parks and Dr. Stacy Nair-Baran to give us some faculty perspectives. So Jennifer.
Thanks, John. I'm glad to be here to be able to speak to the faculty's perspective on teaching online during COVID-19. And I think it's fair to say the faculty have been anxious and concerned about what the school year will look like and what the teaching will look like as well. I wanted to point out this is the start of my 24th year at Loyola. I am in the philosophy department, and my husband is also a Loyola professor in the philosophy department who's been at Loyola 34 years. And I have a son who's a senior in high school who is hoping to be a Loyolan for 2021. So I think if you cut us, we would bleed Loyola. We really love being professors at the university. And I just wanted to speak to the things that matter to me most as a faculty member at Loyola. I think one is just the contact with students. If you're doing philosophy, you have to do that by discourse and dialogue and interaction with students. And having that ability to interact is just really important, having the student contact. The other thing is having an engaged classroom. Whether that's face-to-face or it's online, it's a lot more fun for the faculty as well if you have a classroom where there's a lot of discussion and debate and interaction, whether that's peer-to-peer or with the faculty members. And then the other thing that I've been particularly concerned about just in general is having an organized course where it's just easy to deploy the course and for students to find things. And I do think John is right that you have to be a little more careful online about how you construct those experiences than you would face-to-face. And so there are things that I have been doing as an online instructor over the last few years to try to make that happen. One thing is to just have students and myself use VoiceThread. So we'll make short little video introductions at the beginning of semester, and we get a chance to, maybe 2 minutes to know each other a little bit. I use the Zoom meetings so that you can do small discussion breakouts and students can get together in those breakout rooms and talk to each other without me necessarily listening in, so they can have peer-to-peer interaction and gather their thoughts. I also do the Zoom meetings with my students just to talk about paper, draft planning, and things like that. And that's been a really great contact with the students. And then in terms of new things that I'm trying out, since I've been a heavy Sakai user for the last few years, I decided to try Top Hat, which some of you may have for your course platform for the fall, just because it allows some extra engagement pieces to it. You can run polls, you can run little multiple choice questions during class. You can put in a discussion question and students can see what each other are posting. And I'll be trying out Kahoots, which maybe some of you have used that before in your high school classes or your classes at Loyola. So I've just been very interested in finding new ways to keep the class interesting for the fall. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what things look like. And I want to pass things over to my colleague, Stacy, who is in the marketing department in the School of Business, so she can add her perspective.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Sounds like you're really trying some incredible new things going into the fall. And I also want to just say that I too am a Rambler. This is a Rambler household that I'm coming to you from. My husband is a Rambler as well. So there really is so much pride in being able to say that. And I think for me as a faculty member to convey that care in my approach to teaching, it simply means the world to me that we are also leading with our Jesuit education in the classroom. So I'm really delighted to be with everyone tonight to talk about some of the things that I love doing in an online class. I actually am coming out of 2 6-week synchronous summer classes. We just finished this past Thursday, so all of these different approaches really are top of mind for me as we look forward to starting classes in just 2 short weeks. So I've really been reflecting on what has worked really effectively in the past few weeks, and I'd like to share some of those reflections with you. I'm very aware of what it means to have instructor presence in a class, that courses are not simply set it and forget it, that our role as an instructor is to be with our individual students as they journey through to achieve their learning outcomes. And so what that looks like for me, particularly recognizing that we have lots of different time zones that we are going to be teaching and learning throughout, I have fully adopted Microsoft Teams as an approach to keep a lot of interaction going, even beyond the Zoom synchronous sessions. So Microsoft Teams, a lot of you are probably really familiar with it. It is a tool that many industry professionals use, and I specifically adopted it as well so that my students who will be going into business, going into industry, also have practice with a tool that they will undoubtedly see in the field. So within Microsoft Teams, I typically look at it as though it is a permanent back channel to our Zoom classroom. So we meet in Zoom and we use the chat box and we really, as much as possible, fulfill lots of capacity within Zoom, but it's not permanent. Microsoft Teams allows us to constantly interact as much as we have those quick questions or we want to post different comments that we might have seen as relevant to the class, even beyond the Zoom synchronous session. So like I said, it's been a back channel, a permanent space for the students to be able to interact not only with me, but with each other, also building a sense of community. So Teams is also, I love it for its social media look and feel. Students are able to like different posts. They're able to use the chat function similar to a direct message. They already come into that tool with some capacity and understanding. What I add though is my availability to be with them when they have questions. I love that Teams allows me to set a status so that students know when I'm in another class. That way they can manage their time more effectively. It also lets students set status as well. So if I'm trying to follow up with a student and they have set a status, I'll know that they're in another class and that they'll get back to me as soon as possible. So Microsoft Teams for me has really been an incredible tool to really create that instructor presence, that students know that I'm with them in a very deliberate and mindful approach. Another really important part about teaching an effective online class is this concept of a pedagogy of care. I care deeply for my students. And as Jesuit educators, Cura Personalis is a part of everything that we do. So care becomes even more intentional when we're in an online capacity. And what that looks like for me really is understanding the context that students are coming into my classroom with. I know that I am not the only class they are taking. I know that other classes are using lots of different tools and have lots of different deadlines. So I really try to seek out what the contexts are for my students. Based on knowing that context, I'm able to keep very simple, aligned learning outcomes attached to rubrics. Rubrics are such an important part of how we can get our students from point A to point B, how we can move them into achieving their learning outcomes. I've specifically adopted two very new types of rubrics for me within this past year, actually. So I've adopted what is called a single point rubric and a specifications rubric. And what I love about both of those rubrics, not only do they integrate into teams seamlessly, so students already have that type of presence, students are typically going to have a higher quality level of work through using those particular rubrics. So I've really been very intentional about caring for my students and telling them exactly what they need to do in order to achieve those learning outcomes. But I also provide feedback in a new capacity as well. So along with these rubrics and using Microsoft Teams, I have now started to audio record all of my student feedback for each of their project components. So we heard Jennifer mention VoiceThread as a tool that we can use for audio recording. I now record my voice for the personal customized feedback for each student. They can hear my enthusiasm, they can hear me cheer them on and tell them concrete actions to take in order to meet those learning outcomes. So for me, that pedagogy of care really becomes even more deliberate to connect with students in new ways. So with that, I'd love to invite David back into our discussion to hear about, or to learn about some more faculty insights.
Thank you. You've heard from two faculty at Loyola that are very expert, very fluent in teaching both in an online and a face-to-face capacity. In speaking with other faculty who've had this experience, there are some very important lessons that we learn. And one is that if we ask the question, what does online learning look like? Well, it's going to look different for every course. It's going to look different in a course in my department in physics from, say, an advanced literature course, from the courses that Stacy and Jennifer teach. But what faculty tell me is that one of the things you learn very quickly is what you should not do is try to figure out how to replicate your face-to-face experience in an online format. And that what you should do is take advantage of the technology and the differences between face-to-face and online. So what a lot of faculty have done is to make a lot of use of the combination of both synchronous, meaning you're meeting at the same time, and asynchronous events, meeting at different times. So a lot of faculty I know will post videos of their lectures that students can watch at any time. Now, this is a huge advantage for students who for some reason get sick, can't make a class. This fall, we may have students that will have to quarantine for 2 weeks. We're hoping not, but statistically, that's a real possibility. And if you miss class in a face-to-face format, you've got to get the notes from someone, either the instructor or another student in the class if they'll let you have them. And then you're not so sure about the quality of the notes that you've just gotten. So a lot of faculty will record lectures ahead of time and use class time for discussion. I know in physics, one of the things we commonly do is to make use of the chat feature, as we have a chat feature here. And so the instructor will ask a question of the class and people in the class can respond all at once. You don't have to talk over each other. You don't have to raise your hand, and everyone in the class can see 5 or 6 or 7 or more answers. Another thing you can do in class is to get immediate feedback from your students. So you might pose a question like, if I do X, what will happen? I mean, this is an example you might do in a physics class. And you can make use of the polling feature and have students put in their answers. So you can tell right away how well students have understood the point. You can see what the areas of difficulty might be that you have to address right away. Other faculty point out that they find that there's much less of a gender gap in classes when you teach online. In face-to-face, and there's a lot of educational data on this and a lot of statistics on this, women are less likely to speak up in class. yet that gap seems to be a lot less in an online format. So there are many, many examples that we have. So we're not saying that online is the same as face-to-face. In fact, it's different. And both have their advantages, and both can be very effective. And this fall, because of situations beyond our control, essentially every class we're offering. I'm looking in the Q&A. We were told not to look in the Q&A, but I am. And there are a number of questions asking how many classes are being offered on campus. Fewer than 1% of our total course offering is being offered on campus. On the undergraduate level, it's a total of 13 courses. And they are all either advanced laboratories requiring very sophisticated equipment, or they're courses that teach hands-on skills like phlebotomy, blood drawing. We've been very careful and deliberate and intentional in what courses we allow on campus. As you've read in many of our communications, this is not the step we wanted to take or envision taking, but because of the public health situation, this is what we're doing for the health, not just of our students, faculty, and staff, but of the Chicago community. And we invite 17,000 students into that community every fall. So those are just some of the ways faculty across the university have availed themselves of online learning. And we're going to see even more examples of that this fall. So Joyce, do you have some questions for our panelists?
Thank you, David. So yes, we have more questions for our faculty. The first question, I guess I'm going to field to you, David, which is that most of our classes and most of the labs will be online this fall. What experience does Loyola have with teaching labs online?
So, and again, this is a very common question that we've gotten over the summer, and it's a very, it's one of the questions popping up in the Q&A tonight. As you said, all of our introductory labs are going to be taught online. So students and parents out there, if you're going to be in Bio 111 or Chem 111 or Chem 105 or Organic Lab 225, all of those are going to be online. The nursing school is putting almost all of their labs online, except I think for the sophomore, one of the sophomore labs. In nursing, they've been teaching their labs online for over 3 years, and they've gotten very good at it, and they get very, very good reviews from their students. We're making use of really state-of-the-art simulations. And so in biology and chemistry, we put our labs online at the end of the spring semester and did a lot of testing over the summer and really had very good results in our summer lab courses. The other thing to think about is if we held a lab face-to-face this fall, what would that look like under social distancing conditions? Well, first of all, you'd have to have very many fewer students in the lab. And when we were trying very hard to get as many courses face-to-face as possible, we did a lot of calculations of how many students could we have in the lab at one time. And it was usually about a third to a half of the class. So either that meant each student would have a third or a half of regular class time, and we'd have to cycle students in or out 2 or 3 times, or students would have to take every second or third lab. If we went face-to-face this fall, students would be getting less content. Labs are dynamic, you're moving around. There were a lot of labs you couldn't do because they involve partners, and there are a lot of labs you couldn't do because people have to use the same equipment. And so there'd be a lot of interesting labs that you simply couldn't do in a face-to-face format. So we've done a lot with labs. We've purchased a lot of the state-of-the-art software and simulation software, tested it out over the summer. And so given the options we have for us this fall, we really think that the best thing we can do in our introductory science labs is to offer them in this online format. Another question related to labs, if you can bear with me a second, we've gotten a ton of questions of when the July billing statements went out, questions about why are we being charged for labs? I'd like everyone to check our website. We've posted the fall 2020 course and lab fees. And if you go into tuition and fees, click on undergraduate schools, click on course fees as billed, then you'll see the new list of 2020 course fees. If you haven't yet paid your bill, I think they're due this week, you can either pay at the rate that's on the website, because that is correct, or you can subtract any lab fee and just wait to be billed on August 15th. So what's on your bill now and what you see on the website are different. New bills will be cut on August 15th, and you should be getting those. And if you want to pay your bill this week, use the values that are on the website, or just subtract out any course and lab fees and wait for your August 15th bill. So thanks for letting me get a plug-in for the business office. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Slavsky. I'd like to pose this next question to Jennifer, and that is, and it's been a big question I think that people want to know. So are you able to cover as much material and at the same depth in an online class as you do in your face-to-face classes?
I think that's a great question, actually. And I think there might be a tendency to think, well, what you need to do is pile more reading on because after all, it's online, right? And somehow students aren't getting as much work done. And I think that's not the case at all. I found over the years I've taught both online and face-to-face, you can do the same amount of reading assignment. But I think what's interesting about online is the other assignments and readings and things that you can use to make it interesting, because you're not there meeting face-to-face. So for example, using podcasts, there's all kinds of like really interesting YouTube videos. I'm teaching a healthcare ethics class in the fall. So we're talking all about issues relating to COVID-19 and public health. And of course, all kinds of people are talking about that. There are videos and things that I'm able to use, and students can view those outside of class time and come to class, you know, having used that and able to discuss it. So in some ways, I think you can at least do as much, and I wouldn't pile more on, but I think you can do things in kind of interesting ways just to keep it lively.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pose the next question to Stacy. We sort of asked the student this, so now we want to ask the faculty something on the same end. How do you facilitate group work and class discussions in this online setting?
It's such an important question, particularly for business students and marketing students. We are known for having group projects in my department. So the group projects and class discussions really require a lot of autonomy from the students. In other words, as an instructor, I make sure to give the students choice around how they are assigning into groups and the role that they play in class discussions. So for example, in my marketing research class in the fall, we will use different business issues that a client has, and those business issues will be essentially the sorting organization mechanism for students to develop their own groups. That way they are actually choosing with some personal interest in what they want to learn more about with other like-minded students. To help really foster a sense of community within those groups, I'll lean back to Microsoft Teams. Each of the teams will have a different channel, almost like a folder, to thread all of their content together as it relates to this particular project. So it really is a combination of, yes, using technology to foster the group environment, but also allowing students choice in how they ultimately take on those group challenges. In terms of discussion too, and this is a really important piece, the Zoom classroom, particularly for synchronous sessions, really does require a lot of discussion to bring the classroom to life. And so typically what I will actually do is allow students the role of helping me to moderate the discussion. So perhaps a student group of a particular business issue will actually be the moderator of the chat box. And those students will be helping me to monitor the chat, ask questions to their classmates, pose different articles and links and copy paste that into the chat, really allowing students a role that doesn't necessarily require them to use audio can be very helpful in getting everybody actively engaged within a group discussion.
Thank you so much. I think another really important topic that people have talked about was office hours and meeting with the faculty, which is really important, as you know. How do you do this in an online setting? And I'll start with Jennifer, and then if Stacy, if you want to add something, that's fine.
Yeah, so I also did a couple of online summer classes in the earlier summer session, and it was interesting. Students were all over the world, literally, and we obviously couldn't meet face-to-face for office hours. And I feel like I got more access and more contact with the students because we could plan based on, you know, where they were in their time zone, right? Or, you know, when we have normal classes at Loyola, sometimes students would say, you know, it works for my schedule. Could you meet me at 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night? And I'd say, well, no, right? I have a family, I have to get home. But it's possible to meet a student at 7 o'clock at night after dinner, right? If I get on Zoom with them. So, in a lot of ways, I mean, I do miss, I will admit, the face-to-face contact and kind of the body language you can pick up on with students when you meet during office hours, but they can be very limited because they're just based on a couple of hours on Tuesday and Thursday that I pick rather than what works for the student. So I haven't found it hampers office hours at all, and I think a lot of students feel like they benefited from more personalized times that work well for them. Stacy, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Sure, no, I'll jump in as well. I absolutely agree that there is simply more availability for everyone to slide into each other's schedules in very intentional and meaningful ways. So Microsoft Teams, I know I keep saying that, but the chat function on that has really become such a go-to to quickly check in and say, let's meet at this time, let's hop in the Zoom classroom, let's just even maybe hash out our questions in a quick, immediate chat. So for me, office hours has become certainly another hallmark of how we can really connect with students and hear what their needs are so that we can give that feedback. I'm also using a tool called Calendly. Some people may have heard of that. It's another sort of add-on that we can create a link as instructors, and we ultimately give blocks of time where students can go onto that link and simply take an appointment with us. So they can choose, do they want a 15-minute appointment, a 30-minute appointment? We can schedule as far in advance as possible as they need. So for me, office hours, to Jennifer's point, it's not so static anymore and potentially an inconvenience for the student. We really have, I think, more touch points with them now.
Stacy, let me stick with you for the last question, and then I'll ask Jennifer to join in. And we kind of asked this question of the student as well regarding maintaining community. So how do you facilitate a sense of community in your class?
It really does come down to the social construction that we can put together as a classroom community. How well do we know each other and really connect into using each other's names during synchronous sessions? How are we really celebrating each other's achievements in the Microsoft Teams site? Microsoft Teams in particular, we can do @mentions, very similar to social media. So when students recognize that their teammates and their classmates have done incredible work, they can certainly hop onto Teams and share recognition very publicly. So we can socially get together in new ways that maybe in face-to-face classes, we were thinking that somebody did an incredible job, but maybe we didn't take the time to actually celebrate that. These online tools allow for those types of celebrations in the moment. I'm thinking in particular, my class that I just finished on Thursday night, we had a couple of students who were in the class of 2020. They were getting their August conferrals, and the class and we put up virtual backgrounds for them, virtual graduation backgrounds to celebrate. So it really is about getting to know each other in a very intentional, social way, recognizing that the technology brings us together, but we are still humans behind these touch points.
Thank you. Jennifer, did you want to add anything to that, or are we good for now?
I would just say really quickly that one of the things I noticed during half spring semester when we went online quickly was that sometimes students wanted to turn off their camera and mute their mic right when we were on Zoom meeting, and just kind of, I don't know what they were doing in the background, but just to make sure we were building community, I would tell them, well, camera's on, right? Unless you have some reason you want to tell me you can't have it on. so that there's not that kind of leaning back and thinking, well, I'll just let the learning come to me. And I encourage the students, when they take the class, to engage in it. I think as faculty, there's a lot we can do to make the course work online and make it interesting, and then asking students to, not kind of passively engage it, but to really actively engage in the learning really helps to build community. And it does help that you can see people's names, right? In the boxes, you can learn students' names much more quickly because you can see their name every time you join the class. So I found that was a benefit, to get to know my students faster.
Thank you. Well, thank you to our faculty for their great answers. At this time, I'd like to introduce Betsy Burns, the Director of Learning and Success, and Paul Volker, the Director of the Loyola Information Commons and University Libraries, who will talk to us a little bit about student success and resources.
Thanks, Joyce. Good evening, Ramblers. Again, my name is Betsy Burns, and I'm the Director of Learning and Student Success within the Division of Student Academic Services. In this role, I am responsible for many of the university's student success and retention initiatives, such as academic alerts and placement tests. I also oversee the Tutoring Center and the Student Accessibility Center. Additionally, I'm the mom of 5 great kids, 2 of which are students currently at Loyola. And I'm a student here too, as I'm working on my PhD in sociology. So my work is very personal to me. As summer school is winding down, the staff and Student Academic Services is getting fired up to welcome our students back to classes this fall. We have an exciting slate of resources to support the success of our students as we continue our academic journey online. Some of those resources are tried and true oldies but goodies, and some have been specifically created for implementation this fall. Some of them based on the responses of surveys from our students this spring. One of our consistently effective resources is our tutoring services. All services offered by our tutoring center are free. Who doesn't like free? And will be online for the fall. Almost 100 of our first and second year courses will be covered by a supplemental instruction leader, and our other courses will be covered by our peer tutoring program. We also have success coaching, where students can meet one-on-one with one of our graduate students' success coaches, who help students with different study strategies and learning resources specifically tailored to online learning. We've completely overhauled our Univ 112 Strategies for Learning course, which is a 1-credit graded course, and it will focus on strategies specific to online learning. Our great partners over in the Writing Center will also be online and ready to help all of our Ramblers with all aspects of the writing process. So from the beginning, when your student gets the prompt for that writing assignment, all the way through for making sure that the citations are all correct with the bibliography. The Student Accessibility Center supports and advocates for our students with disabilities and will be available and working with students online this fall. If you have a diagnosed disability and have not registered with the Student Accessibility Center, please do so as soon as possible so we can make sure your accommodations are in place for fall classes. For our students who are already registered with our office, please review your accommodations, and if you need additional assistance due to our online environment for the fall, we'd love to see you and have you meet with one of our accessibility specialists to review your accommodations. Just make an appointment through Accommodate. Now I'm going to highlight some of our new and exciting resources. We have been working hard this summer to develop a program called Rambler Resources for Student Success Online to support our students this fall. This program includes a web page listing of all possible resources by categories so students can easily find the resource they need and get connected to that resource. We have also developed a special Sakai project site to help our students learn all of the necessary tools and resources for online learning. just to let you know, because I know we've talked a lot about Sakai tonight, Sakai is our learning management system, similar to Blackboard or Canvas that some of you may have used in high school or in your prior studies. And that's where faculty can post materials, assignments, you can take tests and quizzes, there's a grade book, all kinds of fun stuff. So we have a site dedicated and will be opened to as a self-paced guide to make sure all of our students know how to use the technology that we've discussed tonight and take advantage of all of our resources and tools to support online learning. We also have a written document, an online learning resource guide that we also will have available for all of our students with great tips and tricks to navigate learning in the online environment. Again, we listen to our students and we know that there were some struggles in the spring, and we have learned and grown from those. And the students shared with us that they wished for us to streamline communication to them, and we've made improvements in that area. We'll be launching a student success newsletter and website this fall to effectively and efficiently share key information, events, and resources to students on your path to success at Loyola. They'll be just in time, and that'll allow you to take advantage of those. We also know the important role that academic advisors play in supporting our students. So we're implementing a new tool to help students easily connect with their academic advisor. That tool is called Navigate. Navigate is a student-centered mobile app that provides a way for Loyola students to interact with their advisors, as well as provide personalized information to keep you on track. Key features of Navigate include advisor appointment scheduling, the ability for you to view your class schedule, to be able to connect easily and resolve holds, get connected to resources, and much, 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 much more. We are very excited to have this implementation. Most of these resources will launch the week of August 17th, so very, very soon. So stay tuned for more updates and information on all of these great tools. I am going to now turn it over to one of my great colleagues in University Libraries, Paul Volker.
Thank you very much, Betsy, and good evening. I'm Paul Volker, Director of the Loyola Information Commons with the University Libraries. Thank you very much for joining us. I just want to talk a little bit about what our library services will look like during the fall semester, including things like study spaces, access to print books and electronic resources, and assistance for your research and coursework. Above all, we're here to help you. At the end of the webinar, there will be a slide with a number of links to library services I'm discussing, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us. In terms of our study spaces, I'm happy to announce that the Information Commons at the Lakeshore campus and the Lewis Library at the Water Tower campus will be open to allow students to study and attend their courses remotely. Our goal is to provide a number of study spaces in a safe, socially distanced atmosphere. What will this look like? First, our building occupancy will be reduced to ensure safe, socially distanced study. In light of this, access to the IC and Lewis Library will be limited to Loyola students, faculty, and staff. We typically have a lot of group study rooms, but these will be converted into individual study rooms. These rooms will be reservable by students so that you're able to study and participate in your online courses at a safe distance from others. Socially distanced individual study spaces, including things like study tables, study carrels, and desktop computer workstations, will also be available. We'll have a lot of wipes and hand sanitizer on hand throughout all the buildings, and masks will be required of everyone entering our buildings. Digital media services will continue to offer equipment loan by appointment. And while the library stacks will be closed, students will be able to request books online and to pick them up at a contactless pickup spot in the IC or Lewis Library. I also want to highlight that along with our extensive print collections, we have a huge number of digital resources that are available through the libraries. These include things like ebooks, journals and academic articles, newspapers, and streaming video. To access these resources, simply visit the library's website, libraries.luc.edu, and locate them through the library catalog or one of our many databases. I also want to note that these electronic resources will be available to you whatever your location. And if you need help finding a book or article, or if you need help with a research project, citations, or anything else needed for your coursework, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. The libraries operate a 24-hour chat service, and librarians can also respond to questions via email, or you can schedule a virtual meeting with a librarian through Zoom. We also have subject specialist librarians assigned to every academic department at Loyola. So again, please look for the slide with links to library resources at the end of this webinar. I just want to thank you all very much for your time and wish you the best of luck with the fall semester. And now we're going to rejoin Joyce and Betsy for some more of your questions.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it. So Betsy, we have a couple questions for you that have come in from students. The first one is, the students are asking that they have a disability and that they might need extra time for their exam on extra time on their exams. How does that work now that we're all online?
Great question, Joyce. So it works very similarly then as how we had it set up prior to going online. So as part of your accommodations, if you are given extended time for test and quizzes, it'll be noted on your accommodation letter, and that letter is sent directly to your faculty member via Accommodate, which is our case management system that we utilize on campus for the Student Accessibility Center. When you know you have a test or quiz, you will submit a test or quiz file within Accommodate and let us know that you have that. We will work directly with your faculty to make sure that that's all set up. So for example, you may have a test or quiz via Sakai. So you will take it online. So the faculty member will get the notice from us that you have extended time. They will go in and they will provide that extended time in the Sakai system, and you'll be all set up, ready to go.
Thank you. So along that line, are there any specific support systems in place for those who have difficulty learning online?
Absolutely. We want to do everything we can to support our students in the online environment. And one of those resources I particularly want to highlight is our success coaches. They are all graduate students who have undergone lots of hours of training and will be training again here next week as we start looking at specifically beefing up their knowledge of the online environment and making sure that they have all the tips and tricks and strategies available, that they are well versed in all of the technology that is available for our students. Again, we're also going to have the Sakai management site, the Rambler Resources for Online Student Success. And in that project site is the self-paced resources and that will walk students directly through all of the tools and technologies and resources. And our success coaches are going to monitor that site as well. So if students have questions or need additional support, we will reach out to them and make sure they have that support that they need. We know our students have the skills and the resources and the knowledge to succeed. Sometimes we just need a little bit extra help to help pivot. And that's what we're trying to provide, because we know our students have the skills and ability to do well. Sometimes they just need a little bit extra help as they pivot for this new environment online.
Thank you so much, Betsy. At this time, I'd like to introduce Father Scott Hendrickson, who's the Associate Provost for Global and Community Engagement, who'll talk to us a little bit about Ignatian pedagogy.
So thank you, Joyce, and greetings to all. As we begin this segment of our webinar, I want to echo my colleagues and our student in welcoming you to Loyola and the academic experience of the fall 2020 semester. My name is Father Scott Hendrickson, and I am a member of the Ignatius House Jesuit community on the Lakeshore campus. I am an associate professor of Spanish in the Department of Modern Languages and Literatures, associate provost for global and community engagement, and I serve as resident chaplain in Regis Hall. Not only do we welcome you to Loyola University Chicago, we welcome you to a rich tradition, centuries old, in Jesuit education and pedagogy. Jesuit education began with the insights of St. Ignatius of Loyola and his companions as they embraced and adapted the newest pedagogies of their day, the birth of Renaissance humanism. This spirit of innovation, of steadfast creativity, and the willingness to face challenge has grown over hundreds of years. And as Loyola now celebrates its sesquicentennial year in 2020, we certainly recognize the challenges of our new reality. But we continue to be innovative and creative, as I know you've learned and discovered in this webinar. Our university community of One Loyola spreads over 3 campuses in the Chicagoland areas, with global centers in Rome and Vietnam. And while these places have become quieter than normal over the past few months, they are still thriving with the academic pursuit of excellence and that pedagogy of care, cura personalis, that defines a Jesuit education, of attending to the whole person, intellectually, spiritually, and ethically. As we move into the online modality, I want to assure you that this approach and the values we uphold are not left behind. In our face-to-face classes, we ask our students to reflect on the learning experience. What are you supposed to do with the knowledge you acquire? How is knowledge going to change your life? This is what we mean when we speak of a transformative education. And these are the same questions and the same values that we now apply to the mode of online learning. One of the main pillars of the Jesuit and Ignatian experience centers on the use of imagination. And it asks these questions. How do we imagine ourselves and experience ourselves? How do we imagine and experience others, both near and far? How do we imagine and experience the world we live in? And ultimately, how are we called to imagine and build a better world, a better existence? We have faced many challenges indeed over the last 150 years of becoming the university that we are today. And I would like to invite our new and returning students to do the following in this new semester. Stay connected, build community, and engage in cura personalis. Stay connected with your professors and your peers by engaging them with questions and by actively participating in class sessions, group breakout meetings, one-on-one conversations, and all that you've heard our 2 professors speak of here today. Build your virtual community by becoming involved and reaching out to others. You will be in the same classes and the same Zoom rooms with students in Chicago, across the United States, and in many countries around the world. So just like Ty said, try to get to know each other as best you can. And engage this experience with creativity and imagination. Above all, by caring for yourself and for one another. This is what it means to be Jesuit educated as a Loyola Rambler. Joyce, back to you.
Thank you, Father Scott, for those amazing and inspirational words. At this time, I'd like to turn it back over to David Slavsky.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. We know we've covered a lot of ground. We know we've received a lot of questions and we've done our best to answer them. And before we go, I would just like to ask Betsy Burns again to give a quick update. We know that a very, very important area is how we're going to support our students all across the world. And Betsy gave us a lot of information. I'm wondering if she could just highlight some of that again for us before we go.
On that slide, we'll have all of the direct web links for all of the resources that I talked about this evening. Additionally, if you don't know where to go, don't even really know what question you need to ask, and just need help, please, please, please email us at studentsuccess@luc.edu, and then we will be happy to reach out to you and get you directly connected with that resource or with that office or with that human staff member that can best answer your question and help you through that moment. Again, here are all of the resources that I discussed this evening. A lot of these you can access now, but that Rambler Resources for Student Success Online will launch the week of August 17th. So be on the lookout, like I said, for more information about that. And know that we care about you and we can't wait to have you back online with us for classes this fall.
So thank you for being here tonight. Joyce, do you have some last words for us?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much, Dr. Slavsky. First, again, thank you to all the panelists, and thank you more importantly to you, the audience, for being with us tonight. Just a little bit of final housekeeping. The webinar will be posted to the Return to Campus website within a few days. And then tonight, we know that we had many questions that we could not answer tonight, but we were focusing on academic experience and support services, and we've done our best to address those inquiries. We will document, however, the questions that we received during the webinar and attempt to answer those outside of the time that we had together tonight. Since information is evolving and changing, as you know, every day it's something new, especially in this COVID season, please do check back to the Return to Campus site frequently because it's a living site and it will be updated frequently. Thank you.